Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into the deepest rabbit hole in Call of Duty's Warzone universe, the hidden history of Verdansk, the true purpose of Rebirth Island, and the rise of the Cold War villain known only as Stitch. You've seen him in the trailers. The stitched eye, the tortured voice, the villain who always seems one step ahead. But who is Stitch? Why did he want to destroy Verdansk? And how does all of this tie back to real-world Cold War programs, mind control experiments, and forgotten Soviet black sites? Buckle up, because this isn't just game lore. This is a shadow war that spans decades. Quick facts to set the stage. Before we dive into the lore, here are a few key facts you need to know, real-world references and fan theories that are 100% essential to understanding what's going on beneath the surface. Nova 6 was introduced in Call of Duty, Black Ops 1, but it was based on real Cold War-era chemical warfare development, especially the Soviet Union's interest in nerve agents like VX and sarin. MKUltra, a real CIA mind control program, conducted secret experiments on civilians and soldiers, often without their consent, using LSD, hypnosis, isolation, and even torture. Perseus was a rumored Soviet spy who allegedly infiltrated the Manhattan Project. In the Black Ops universe, Perseus becomes the face of an underground Soviet operation focused on psychological warfare and sleeper agents. The red doors in Warzone weren't just teleporters, they symbolized neural trauma, dissociation, and mental programming. Verdansk is modeled after a post-Soviet Eastern European region. It contains secret bunkers, old missile silos, KGB records, and hidden labs, all part of the Nova 6 legacy. Clapperboard. Our story begins, Rebirth Island, 1968. The man we know as Stitch, real name, Viktor Kuzmin, started out as a loyal Soviet operator working under the KGB's Directorate of Biochemical Warfare. His assignment? Supervise a secret weapons facility on Rebirth Island. Rebirth wasn't just a black site. It was a biochemical test center where early versions of Nova 6 were synthesized and tested on live prisoners. Nova 6 wasn't a traditional poison. It was a gas that caused neural collapse, your brain melts before your body even hits the floor. Stitch's team was ruthless. Prisoners were tied down and exposed to test batches. Survivors? Some went mad. Others became aggressive, robotic, and unable to recall their identities, the earliest signs of mind reprogramming. That's where the CIA comes in. Skull and Crossbones. Russell Adler vs. Stitch, the raid that changed everything. In 1968, a covert American team led by Russell Adler infiltrated Rebirth Island to shut down the Nova 6 program. Adler believed the Soviets were about to release Nova 6 on U.S. soil. During the operation, Stitch was captured. But Adler didn't kill him. Instead, in the struggle, Adler stabbed a combat needle into Stitch's eye, permanently scarring him. That single act didn't just mark Stitch physically, it created a personal vendetta that would last decades. But here's the twist. Stitch vanished. The Soviets extracted him and reprogrammed him using the very psychological tech he'd helped develop. What emerged was no longer just Viktor Kuzmin. He became a weapon of vengeance, a cold and methodical operative with a singular goal: destabilize the West using its own tactics. Enter, Perseus and the rise of the sleeper program. Years passed. The Cold War entered the 1980s. In the shadows, the Perseus Collective began recruiting sleeper agents, operatives planted within enemy nations, ready to activate with a single phrase. Stitch didn't just join Perseus. He became one of its architects. His new mission: infiltrate key locations, release Nova 6, and trigger chaos on a global scale, not with guns, but with fear. Step 1: turn Verdansk into a battlefield. Verdansk wasn't chosen at random. The city has deep Soviet roots. Abandoned bunkers, missile sites, and KGB listening posts still exist beneath the surface. Stitch began seeding the region with Nova 6 canisters, smuggling them through old Soviet supply lines. He activated local operatives. He rerouted supply drones. And in a bold move, he kidnapped Russell Adler and subjected him to the same brainwashing tactics once used on Soviet test subjects. Adler returned, different. Haunted. Disoriented. And that's where the red doors begin showing up. The red door conspiracy, memory, control, and reality fractures. In Warzone, red doors randomly transport players across the map. But in the lore, they're not real doors. They're psychological metaphors, fragments of repressed trauma in Adler's mind. Stitch didn't just torture Adler. He implanted false memories, using trigger phrases and neurotoxins derived from Nova 6. Adler began hallucinating, losing track of time. And through him, Stitch sent coded messages to activate sleeper agents embedded across NATO command. This was no longer about one city. This was about resetting the entire balance of power. As Verdansk spiraled into chaos, whispers of Nova 6 sightings increased. Players started finding gas canisters in bunkers. Intel missions revealed long-lost Rebirth Island files. Stitch wasn't just building a new army, he was resurrecting the old Soviet war machine, using Cold War tech mixed with experimental bioweapons. And then, the nukes fell. Why Verdansk was nuked, the official lie and the real reason. The official line? A massive zombie outbreak triggered by a failed containment breach. But longtime fans know better. The nuking of Verdansk wasn't a cleanup. It was a cover-up. Stitch had compromised the region's infrastructure. The gas was spreading. Red door anomalies were increasing. Multiple NATO commanders were acting erratically, possibly due to mind control. If Verdansk wasn't destroyed, the sleeper virus would spread globally. So the nukes fell, not on zombies, but on a battlefield haunted by corrupted memories and experimental tech gone wrong. Stitch disappeared. Some say he returned to Rebirth. Others think he's deep underground, building a new Perseus network. But one thing's clear, Verdansk was never just a map. It was a war zone in the battle for global consciousness. Brain fan theories, simulations, time loops, and neural warfare. Here's where it gets weird and brilliant. Some of the biggest fan theories suggest that Warzone's events aren't happening in real time, they're part of a simulation, designed to test responses to trauma, bioweapons, and psychic triggers. The fact that operators from different timelines appear side by side supports this. Stitch's experiments weren't just chemical, they were digital. Memory rewrites. Artificial scenarios. Controlled environments. Verdansk may not have been a physical place in the end, it may have been a test chamber. This ties into the mysterious Project Janus, a black project named after the two-faced god of duality and time. In lore files, Janus was described as a dual-state simulation, designed for synchronized consciousness deployment. Translation? A program to implant operatives in multiple realities at once. Stitch might be more than just a man. He might be a living algorithm, designed to spread Cold War ideologies across physical and digital fronts. The bigger mystery lies in something called Project Janus, a secret NATO operation referenced in hidden documents and cryptic intel drops. Janus was designed to explore alternate realities, to synchronize different timelines and test how they interact. This is why we see operatives from wildly different Call of Duty eras fighting side by side in Warzone, because they are actually from different strands of reality, all being run through a simulation to see which timeline prevails. This concept opens the door for some mind-bending game modes. Imagine dropping into a match where the map itself shifts mid-game from Verdansk to Rebirth Island, or where your squad suddenly finds itself facing enemies from a future timeline with unknown tech and weapons. We're talking about echo war scenarios where timelines bleed into one another, and the rules of reality bend in real time. Then there's the Nova gas itself. It's no longer just a deadly toxin but a tool for memory corruption. Operators exposed to it don't just risk dying, they risk losing who they are. Some community leaks hint at a mode where players can become corrupted, turning against their own squads as the gas rewires their minds. This could introduce a traitor mechanic to Warzone, adding a fresh layer of paranoia and strategy. On the horizon is also the potential return of zombies, but not in the traditional endless horde style. Instead, think of story-driven invasion events, where dark ether rifts open on the map, unleashing corrupted soldiers and undead blacksite operatives. Players would need to cooperate to seal these rifts, with each season expanding the narrative and pushing the infection further, merging zombies lore with Warzone's multiverse. And DMZ is evolving too. What started as a survival extraction mode is hinting at a much larger narrative canvas where player choices, faction allegiances, and persistent progress could shape the ongoing story. Imagine a multi-faction war playing out over weeks, with covert missions, shifting alliances, and real consequences that impact both DMZ and the wider Warzone ecosystem. All these threads seem to be leading toward a massive, climactic event, something fans have dubbed Operation Nexus Collapse. Picture a fractured map combining elements of Verdansk, Rebirth, Fortune's Keep, and Vondel, where time and reality are unstable, and players' choices determine the ultimate fate of the Warzone multiverse. This kind of event would tie together every timeline, every operator, and every piece of lore into one unforgettable experience. The future of Warzone's story isn't just about weapons and kills anymore. It's about survival across realities, fighting corrupted versions of yourself, and battling an enemy that's as much digital ghost as it is flesh and blood. Whether Stitch returns as a rogue AI, or Project Janus fractures the timelines beyond repair, one thing's for sure. Warzone's story is just heating up, and you don't want to miss AS. What's next? In the next section, we'll dive deeper into the rise of Rebirth Island 2.0, the final showdown between Stitch and Adler, and what clues point to a multiversal collapse inside Warzone's future. We'll also break down hidden cipher messages found in bunkers, the mystery of Rivas and the Echo team, and why Stitch might be connected to even more sinister figures in the modern warfare timeline. But for now, remember, Verdansk wasn't just a city. It was the first battlefield in a war for the mind. Drop a like if you learned something new, and hit subscribe if you're ready for the rest of this insane ride. I'll see you in part 2.